Hello, a wonderful morning to you, my junior school students. How are you today? It's a pleasure having you on this platform. I'm very sure you are doing well. How is home also? Welcome to class. Please sit down quietly, pick your writing material, stay off distraction, and let's learn. Remember, I am still Dakori Moloye, and today I'll be taking you English studies with the topic punctuation marks. Punctuation marks. Let's say some things we stand to gain at the end of the class. At the end of this class, you're able to state the symbol of the two punctuation marks we'll be studying. You're able to state their symbol. Number two, you're able to state their uses also. You're able to state their uses, the way they are used. And lastly, you're able to use them appropriately in sentences. When they are missing sentences, you're able to put them there and use them appropriately. We'll go to the topic itself. Let's do a brief correction to our last assignment. I said you should underline adjectives. Last class we discussed adjectives. I said adjectives are words that qualify or modify nouns or pronouns. I said they tell you more about nouns or pronouns. And I said you should go home and work on these 7 questions. So let's identify adjectives in the following sentences. Try and use this is an adjective, a demonstrative adjective, I told you. And this is another adjective here, at. At here is a proper adjective, like working as a proper noun, to tell you the type of class, art class. This is demonstrative, telling you about the paintbrush. Then many people came to visit the fair. This is adjective of number, many. Then this is an adjective, which is adjective of number also, D, 1. And most times they work as, we call them articles. So it is telling you about the fair. Which fair? The fair. Then we went to which shop? The duty-free shop. This is an adjective phrase, a duty-free shop, qualifying shop. Then E doesn't seem intelligent. Doesn't seem what? Intelligent here is qualifying E. That pronoun, qualifying E. Then blue here, adjective of color, qualifying jacket. So this is the adjective. This is the adjective here. This is the adjective. This and this are the adjective here. This and this are the adjective. And lastly, number 6, 15, adjective of number, qualifying rule. How many rulers? 15. Life is beautiful. Complimenting life. That's also an adjective. Then let's go straight to the punctuation marks for the day. We're considering 2 punctuation marks, colon and semicolon. Let's examine their symbol first. This is a symbol of a colon, 2 dots of equal sizes, the same size for the 2 dots. And let's see what it entails and the way it is used. Firstly, note that it's a break which is stronger than a comma. Is stronger than the comma, but weaker than a full stop. Not up to a full stop, but stronger than a comma. It is used to introduce a list. You want to list something, like I want to buy the following, colon. You list them. Then you also to introduce words, phrases, and entire clauses. You want to introduce a word, a phrase, or entire clause. Use a colon. Let's pick up the usage one by one. First, using the colon to introduce a list. I've said before, to introduce a list, we pick it up one by one. We use a colon in front of a reason or explanation. We also use a colon after introductory heading. After you have written the heading of an introduction, like the book, colon, the title will follow it. Then we use the colon between 2 main clauses that are connected. between two main clauses that are connected. You also use a colon in front of the second part of a book title. I've explained that earlier here. Second part of a book title, we use a colon. Then we use a colon to introduce an indirect speech. We use colons to introduce an indirect speech, like he said that. When you are reporting it as an indirect speech, we use a colon to introduce an indirect speech. Then we use a colon to introduce other texts. If you introduce other texts, you want to reference a text, we use a colon to also introduce other texts. First is the use of colon in introducing a list. You can see the way it is used here. I used 3 colors. Now the color has been listed, introducing that list. Make sure you wear clothes made of natural fabrics. The fabrics are here. I've listed the fabrics: cotton, silk, and wool. Let's try and note this very well. Please try and follow so as you don't get lost along the line. Number 2, we use a colon to state explanation or a reason. You want to state a reason for your action or for your action, you use the colon. Nevertheless, the main problem remained. Now you want to state it. Can you see it here? What's the reason? What should be done with 2 men? You are trying to say your reason. What can be done with 2 men? And here, I decided against going away this weekend. Yeah, column has been used here to state your reason for going away. The weather forecast was dreadful. Because of the weather forecast, you decided against going away. I'm saying did not go away this weekend. So to state a reason or to explain a fact, use a colon. Also, use a colon to state an introductory heading. You want to state an introductory heading. Like you want to. This is the introductory heading here. After it comes this cooking time colon. But 5 minutes. You are telling the person the time. Start time. You know how you do it in external exams. Write it on the board. S, big S, start and stop at the bottom. So to state an introductory heading, you also use a colon. Also, we use a colon between 2 main clauses that are connected. When 2 main clauses are connected, especially in literature, when they are contradictory but connected, we use a colon. Things like your paradox, yes, your paradox, use colons in them. It made me feel catastrophic. Colon is here, you see. I wonder would happen to someone. I wonder what would happen to someone who was really unable to tolerate being locked into a tiny space. Be patient. The next book is, you can see a colon here. Introduces the second part of that clause. Also, we use a colon in front of the second part of a book. Mind you, this is the book title. Then this is a further detail into what the book is about. Farming and wildlife, a study in compromise. Then beyond words, this is the book title. This is a detail into it. Beyond single words, the most frequent collocations in English, in spoken English. We are using colons here to introduce the second part of that book. Then we use a colon to introduce direct speeches. Mind you, an indirect speech is a speech. I will say indirect speech here, not direct speech. Indirect speech. A direct speech is a speech by the speaker itself. But when you are reporting it, it becomes indirect. And to do that, you have to go this way. It said, colon, you owe me $3.25. And here also, can you see it here? The Health Minister said the IT program will provide access to more compressed information. DG informed informed, colon. And you quote it, we would be better soon. I'm reporting what they just said here, and I have to use a colon like I have it here to introduce what they just said. Then we use a colon to introduce other text. You want to state other parts of a sentence. We use a colon in that. Why use a colon to introduce other text? There are also instances in which they are used to introduce, I told you before, phrases, words, clauses, or even multiple sentences that are meant to explain or illustrate the previous clause. Mind you, aside using them to introduce other texts, they can be used to introduce words, phrases, clauses, or multiple sentences that illustrate the previous clause. For example, one thing is for sure, colon. We will state that thing that is for sure. We want to introduce the other part of it. We are going to get a better deal than the one they are offering. You can see, you can't put a comma here or a full stop here. That would be wrong. Let us get something right. You want to state that thing now. You want to state the other part of the text. You can't put a comma here or a full stop here. That would be very wrong. We are not at an equal level. I'm the boss, and you're an employee of this company. So what I say is final. This has been used to introduce the other part of the text. And note this: space before a colon. Before a colon, when you use a colon, it's be followed by a single space before the lists. That is, you don't model up your colon and the next statement together. After the colon, you leave a space, a single space, not two. And mind you, you must leave it. Not that you just write the next word immediately after the colon. You leave a space so that your writing is, number one, it's clear and no more together. Then also, it shows that you're a neat person. It shows you are neat and legible. And that is legible. Let's go to the use of semicolons now. Semicolons. Mind you, this is unlike colon. Colon, I said, is two dots. This is a dot and a comma. Note the composition. A dot and a comma. And they are used to join relative independent clauses. Close relative independent clauses. They are used when there are no coordinating conjunctions. That is, let's see this now. It's often described as being more powerful than a comma, like that one also. Although it functions in a similar way to both comma and full stop. That's why you see a full stop and a comma making up semicolon. It functions in both ways, but powerful than a comma, but not as potent as a full stop. Let's use it now. Number one, it is used to make a break between two main clauses. One is a balance or a contrast between the clauses. I said one thing, semicolons are used mostly in place of coordinating conjunctions. The ending word into life, comma. Well, I can say here, the ending word into life, but verb begins to turn. But because bet is omitted here, we have this here to replace it, and it will be too much to use bet here. So we use them mostly to replace coordinating conjunctions. The ending word into life, verb began to turn, comma. I can tell you something here. The ending word into life, but the verb began to turn, or so verb began to turn. And the plain, we have used them here to avoid using coordinating conjunction. Let me give you the clear illustration now. The engine word into life. So the propeller began to turn, and the plane takes it down the runway, ready to take off. So I've avoided using this now. So I've put a semicolon in that place to link up two main clauses or more, where there's a balance or contrast between the clauses. Then, when to use a semicolon? One way to know when to use semicolon is to ask yourself, what are the two clauses are written as separate sentences? That is, when you see two clauses written as separate sentences, yes, you use the semicolon. Let me come again. When you see two clauses or two sentences written separately, my friend, my students, use a semicolon. Let's see examples now. Look at this. These are two sentences written separately. I am not interested in jazz. I prefer classical music. Let me remind you what I told you that time. I said I could have used a BUT here, but I can tell you I am not interested in jazz, but I prefer classical music. But one, this has come to replace it here. That's one. Then I got to know I have to use a semicolon here because we have two sentences here written separately. This is a sentence on its own, it makes sense on its own, and a sentence on its own. Then he knew everything about me. I had never heard of him. Here, here also I can use BUT, but I've never. But I've told you I've omitted that. Now I can use semicolon because there are two separate sentences, and BUT can always work there, but I try to remove the BUT. Then a semicolon is used to separate items in a list. You want to separate items in a list, like you have a list in a list. Yes, you have a list in a list. The hotel was a disaster. You can see the colon sign here to list the disaster. Number one, the flight was late. The hotel which was described, see it here, as luxury was dirty. No, this is listing the disaster. But here you have a list in a list. You want to use it to indicate that. And it rained all through the night. I told you I can put bed here. Or and here. The flight was 4 hours late. And the hotel, I told you, we use them at times to replace coordinating conjunctions. Then, you do not use semicolons with dependent clauses. A dependent clause is a clause that cannot stand on its own. A dependent clause has to be attached to the main clause to make meaning. Look at this now. This is a dependent clause. When I travel to Paris, what happened? We don't know. That makes it dependent. It's depending on this to make meaning. When I travel to Paris, I will stay in the same hotel. This is wrong. This is correct here. Because whatever cannot go with an how do I say it now? A relative pronoun at the beginning of the sentence cannot go with a semicolon in the middle. So here is wrong. Here is right. Is right here. Because only a comma can work here. Because we're trying to separate a dependent clause from an independent clause. You cannot use a semicolon to join a dependent clause to an independent clause. No, you can't use. The best thing you can use there is a comma, but let's not go into that for the day. We are not focusing on comma today. For further readings, I will say this further readings before I end this. Remember this very well. Let's go back a bit. So our use of semicolon, this is a bit complicated than colon. Colon has its list, and I've explained that. I told you can use it to replace your and your bet or SO. So they are used to replace coordinating conjunctions. Also, when you see two separate sentences, that is two independent clauses, you use a semicolon to join them together. You can see it here. Two independent. This can stand on its own. He knew everything about me. This can stand on its own. I had never heard of him on its own. So you can use a semicolon to join them together instead of using a coordinating conjunction. And lastly, I said you can use it to list a list in a list. That is, you use it to mention a list of items in a phrase or clause, like you have it here. Then, I've told you while it is not appropriate here. I told you while we can't use it here. We can't use it here because you cannot use a relative pronoun at the beginning and a semicolon to separate it from a main clause. No, you cannot use a semicolon to separate a dependent clause from or to join a main clause to a subordinate clause. You cannot use. You must always use a comma. And lastly, for references, please try and go through these books. They are very good for you to use. Read them. You will learn more about punctuation marks from them, and you're better off after learning them. Remember, I can only give you at most 70% in class. You have to source for the 30%. You need more. And through studies and reading, you retain the 70% I've taught in class, and you gain the needed 20 or 30% more. For my assignments, work on this. State 2 use of semicolon. Then use the two uses. Use them in Arabic sentences. The two you have stated above, use them in two for each rule. Then state 2 use of colon also 2 use of colon. Then also 2 examples for each. Till we see again next time, I want to say a big thank you to you for listening to me attentively. Remember, go through my reference material, send questions to me if you have any, do my assignments, and remain good students. I love you all. Thank you.